Good afternoon, guys. Welcome to Football Brownie. Hope you're all well, keeping safe, keeping each other safe, and spreading the love during this pandemic because we all need a little bit of loving. Right, before I go any further, please like, share, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel because without your help, this channel cannot progress. And today is a clear example of the channel progressing in ways in which I would only dream of. Also, before we go any further, Alan will kill me if I don't do it. Please check the ticket bar down below. awaydayapparel.co.uk. They give 10% off your clothing range as long as you put Football Brownie in the promo code. Remember, capital F, capital W, and capital B in that promo code. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Now, today, as mentioned, today's the first sign this channel is going to the next level. I either watch my guest on other YouTube fan channels, and I think, why not get in contact with him because I really like, what he has to say on the channels. And his football writing's taken him from humble beginnings from Hampstead, North London. Would you call it North London, Hampstead, James?
I would call it North London, Adam, and it's taken me all the way. It's taken me all the way to Amsterdam. But
yeah, all the way to Amsterdam, via all different corners of Europe, my friend.
I know.
I also, as well, guys. Sometimes I can get tongue tied on these type of podcasts. Mm-hmm. So I also welcome my good friend Sam Greenwood. He can take over the Arsenal kind of questions and jump in whenever you want, Sam. If that's okay, yeah.
Yeah, good to see you guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good. Nice to see you again, Sam.
Yeah, you too, mate. You too, James.
Looking forward to it.
Guys in the comments, please put your comments in. But I'm not going to do it throughout the show. I'm just going to do it at certain parts, if that's okay with you guys. Okay, before we go anything else, James, I think it's just appropriate to give a bit of a background into how you come, your journey really into football writing.
Well, first and foremost, hello everybody. Thanks for inviting me on. Nice to be on as well. For those that are hearing me for the first time today, my name is James Rowe. I'm originally from the UK, but also being an Arsenal supporter, I emigrated to the Netherlands nearly 15 years ago now. And I started out about less than 5 years ago interviewing then unknown Dutch players and managers in their mother tongue. And then it kind of snowballed from there, where you go from all parts of the Netherlands that not many Dutch people go to interviewing the likes of Graham Potter, Danny Cowley, Viv Anderson. And it's been a great journey so far. Tomorrow, we'll see my 300th publication with former Gooner Cohen Bremmel, who went from Huddersfield Town to Arsenal. My current publishers are the Secret Footballer website, as well as Football CFB. Yeah. But should anyone be interested in any of my work from all levels of world football, they can just Google me at James Rowe, and then you can follow me on at James Rowe NL. If you type in James Rowe football interviews on Google, you literally read everything I've done in the last 4.5 years, and it's a great journey to be on. It's great to deal with players and managers at all different levels. Also, women's football as well. I always say that every professional player or manager has a story to tell. And it's about making sure that you get it spot on. It's about asking the questions that are a little bit different to the rest. And I like to think that my ability to interview Dutch players and managers in their mother tongue, for example, helps me to stand out. And also interviewing in Spanish as well. So that's good. So, yeah, it's been a great journey. And we're nowhere near finished. I'd like to think the best is yet to come.
Yeah, no worries at all. So, what was it from university then, James, and you went into writing straight away, or was it a bit of other things in the middle, or in the beginning?
I would say I always had a passion for football. Always had a massive passion for football, and I quickly realised I started out on this journey doing translation pieces. I would do Dutch translation I would do English translation of Dutch post-match and pre-match press conferences for an English football website about Dutch football called Football Oranje. And I used to do, for example, the news that would come out of press conferences for Ajax and Feyenoord and PSV, people would go to the site and read my translation pieces. And then after a while, I thought to myself, I'm doing quite well at this. Maybe I should start doing it myself. And I put out some requests to some professional clubs, and it was the then manager of FC Den Bosch, William Vloet, who also managed ADO Den Haag, as well as Sparta Rotterdam. He was the first one to give me that chance, and I'll never forget that. And if you'd have told me that, 4.5 years on, that you'll get to speak to another 299, as well as, Arsenal legends such as Bob Wilson and Kevin Campbell, and the likes of Viv Anderson and Danny Cowley and Graham Potter, I would have said you was mad. But it's just about, always had a passion for writing, could always write well. And it's always about making sure that you do everybody justice, because there's a lot of sensationalism. There's an awful lot, and I get a lot of people asking me about, can you give me the contacts of this person? Can you give me the contacts of that person? Where privacy is the most important thing. And I'll give you another example. When I'm interviewing Dutch players and managers, that interview may well be published in English, but it certainly wasn't conducted in English. It was conducted in Dutch. So the depth of the piece and what was said and how they can express themselves, you won't find that anywhere else. You find that in my pieces, because I'm fortunately able to speak fluent Dutch and write fluent Dutch as well. And thankfully with the fans and with the supporters and people that like my work, the penny is dropping now. But it's a massive responsibility as well, guys. It's not just about sensationalism. It's not just about, chapters and headlines. It's about the human element of footballers, because I really do think it's overlooked. Not every footballer is rich. Not every footballer can plan a career. You can have ambitions to plan a career. You can have wants and dreams, but one bad injury and it could all be finished. Or a new manager coming in and you could be marginalised.
Yeah, that's right.
You learn an awful lot. I mean, I've dealt with technical directors, players, managers, agents. You're dealing with all facets of football, and your knowledge becomes bigger, and you realise that these people are also human as well. So it's a big responsibility, but it's one that I enjoy. I mean, I've got to give a little bit of a sneak preview to some of your viewers tonight. My upcoming interviews include not only Cohen Bramwell tomorrow, but also Trevor Steven, who went to 2 World Cups with England and played for Olympic Marseille.
And Everton as well. And Everton. Tricky Trev was fantastic. That mid-80s team at Everton was incredible.
It was.
I was lucky to see it. During those times. I'm showing my age a bit now, but that period, because I noticed Trevor Steven. You also done Kevin Ratcliffe as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Kevin was extremely honest, especially about playing for Wales as well, and he was very passionate about playing for Wales. I remember he would tell me about how the pitches were, and how when you played the likes of West Germany back then and the Netherlands, they were technically very gifted. So looking forward to the Trevor Steven one. But I also inquired about his time at Marseille, because in my opinion, guys, Marseille is the biggest club in France. And it was wonderful to hear from him firsthand about playing with Didier Deschamps, about the expectation of playing for such a club, playing for Chris Waddle, and Pat Nevin as well, and a few others. So a few surprises along the way too. But looking forward to what the future will bring.
But on about that Marseille team, Sam, did you watch that Marseille team? I think it 91, wasn't it? They beat Rangers in the Champions League semi-final.
They had quite a tasty team then, didn't they? It was I remember that forward they had Papin, wasn't it? His name was Papin.
Yeah.
He was a good little striker. It was a good little striker he was, wasn't he? He was,
Yeah, that's right.
I think he was very underrated. I mean, he wasn't really one of the big names, but he scored loads of goals, didn't he?
Yeah. And
wasn't it something? And you're on about. In your opinion, Marseille is the biggest club in France. Probably right there, Jamie, because I'm right in saying Paris Saint-Germain was only set up in the early 70s, I think.
1970 to be exact, I believe.
Okay. So we don't really have much of a history. It's like Chelsea, the modern day Chelsea.
They're just a city team. I mean, they're like modern, just a modern, very, very modern club, aren't they? But they had a decent team. I remember in the 90s as well, the early 90s as well. I mean, remember Arsenal playing Paris Saint-Germain in the Cup Winners' Cup, they weren't pushovers.
No,
they had a decent team.
Good
That Raya, Brazilian midfielder. Ginola then, when he was coming up then, wasn't he? Ginola was really, really coming up. So they had a good team, that Paris Saint-Germain team at the time.
It's the original Paris team, then, James. Is that Red Star Paris?
Red Star Paris. Manchester United fans may.
Oh, look at James giving it the big French. Okay, Red Star Paris. I do apologise.
That's fine. That's fine. They Manchester United fans might remember David Bellion, who also played for Bordeaux. He's heavily involved with the club now. I'd like to think I will speak to him sooner rather than later, but timing is very important when speaking to players and managers. It's not simply a case of sometimes it takes a long time to get certain interviews over the line, but they can be very rewarding. Mostly when you have to wait for a long time, you kind of can prepare properly and make sure you know what you're doing. It's the same with Jamie Carragher. My interview with Jamie Carragher took a while to get over the line, but we got there, and it was great to hear about his being a one-man club. And I asked him, I said, did you ever come close to leaving Liverpool? He said no. He said fortunately it never got that far, but in the case of Steven Gerrard, he did have a few clubs sniffing around him. But you could see about also playing for England. One of the things that I remember about.
Sorry, James. Just I'll come in when you're done. Sorry.
Sorry about that. I was just going to elaborate. I didn't just ask him about Liverpool, but also England. And one of the things he said that stuck with me was he said that people talk about the English golden generation, but he said that a lot of people forget around the time that they were playing, the likes of France, Italy, and Portugal also had very, very good teams. And I think a lot of people forget that.
Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah,
and I remember talking about that the Liverpool team with Gerrard obviously being the big name. And I remember Gerrard was that close to signing for Chelsea, wasn't he? At some point, very, very close to signing for Chelsea. He just managed to change his mind and stay with the Liverpool team. But
I could never work that out, you see, because it was obvious to any football fan that the combination of Gerrard and Lampard never worked for England. So why would they want to try it out at Chelsea? I could never.
It's money, mate. It was money and trophies. You wanted to go there for money and trophies. The big money. But he stayed anyway. He stayed loyal, didn't he? He stayed loyal to Liverpool. So good on him.
So there's links, James, to the Spanish city of Zaragoza.
Yes, links to Zaragoza as well, due to the in-laws. But people often remind me about what happened in 1995 when Zaragoza beat
Naeem.
My last football match before COVID was Real Zaragoza against Deportivo La Coruña. That was my last live football match before COVID. And they even had a radio announcement in the stadium where they spoke about the goal of Naeem. But Zaragoza is a massive football club. It's been away for such a long time now. And, that achievement for them was tremendous. We would have won it for a second time in a row. But I've been to watch them twice in their home stadium of La Romareda. And it's people, I remember I would meet with friends and family members, and they would say, oh, it's a horrible stadium, isn't it, James? It's awful. I said, I've been in worse. I thought it was fine. But because they make a great atmosphere, especially the ultras at the front behind the goal, they go absolutely bananas. And it's just such a shame because before the COVID outbreak, they looked on course for automatic promotion. It looked as if, it's going to happen. And then, and then it just completely fell away. And, it's very difficult. You have to keep momentum is something that's very important.
Oh, yeah.
You see that with Sheffield United as well. I received correspondence from Sheffield United on the eve of the season when I put in my request to speak to Chris Wilder. And they said that they'd take it into consideration, but they wanted to let me know that they've had such a short turnaround that, it's very difficult to find the time in some cases. But, I am partial to going to watch Zaragoza. I look forward to to collecting my match ball when I go to see them next time, seeing them for the third time in their own stadium.
Well, with Segunda Liga, I know it, same level as a championship, but it's the same level of toughness to get out of it, get out of that league. I mean, my nearest Segunda Liga club from Marbella would be Malaga. Obviously, I have Marbella, but they're in the part-time lower leagues. But Malaga, I know with certain owners, Spanish club and certain owners do have the dodginess going on. But Malaga have been really struggling to get out the Segunda Liga. You were mentioned Deportivo La Coruña, another one, and Tenerife they haven't been up to La Liga for ages, and it just shows the amount of ex-La Liga clubs now in Segunda Liga. It's just too much competition.
Absolutely. Also, Almeria, a former La Liga team. And last time I looked at the table, which was not so long ago, you had the likes of Espanyol, Almeria, Mallorca. So it looks as if they may go up. But it's also La Liga. For all the razzmatazz and the commercialism of the Premier League, I'm still partial to, I think, La Liga being the best league in the world. If you look at depth...
Thank you very much, James. Thank you very much.
If you look at depth, and if you look at, in particular, at away games, and to go away from home to Valencia, to Seville, to Barcelona, to Real Madrid, to other... San Sebastian, for example, as well. Yeah, it's got to be a big ask, and as I say, it's just my personal opinion, and I just think as well, the technical quality of the league. I mean, in that game, Zaragoza against Deportivo La Coruña, I was watching Deportivo La Coruña, but it's like watching a team that was a shadow of their former selves. For example, I remember the likes of Diego Tristan, the likes of Juan Carlos Valerón, and Urureta, the manager. And Zaragoza won 3-1, but it's such a shame for Deportivo La Coruña. But it just goes to show, and I'm sure we'll touch on it with Arsenal as well, if you don't have an owner that cares, things can go south very quickly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, definitely. Berberto was in that famous Deportivo La Liga Championship side, wasn't he? Well, great.
For me, the Spanish La Liga was great in the 90s, the early 2000s. I don't think they're as good now, and you see what's happening with Real Madrid and Barcelona, falling away a bit. I mean, a lot of the good players are coming to England, not so much to the La Primera anymore. And, they'll probably come back again. All things go in cycles, don't they? But La Liga in the 90s, early 2000s was just incredible, wasn't it? The names, the profiles in the La Liga was incredible, wasn't it? Of course, fantastic.
Absolutely.
Fantastic league.
Well, where you had Brazilian Ronaldo coming from Holland.
He
was with PSV, wasn't he?
Ronaldo, amazing at Barcelona, wasn't he? I mean, he was unplayable.
Also,
he was managed by Bobby Robson.
Yeah,
managed by Bobby Robson, and
exactly.
so Bobby as well is just an absolute legend. There's one of the things for me is obviously I've been living in this country for 15 years, and obviously my Dutch is as good as my English, but there's on YouTube, there are clippets of a 58-year-old Sir Bobby Robson. He wasn't a sir back then, but doing his hardest and trying his best to speak the best Dutch that he can. He wasn't perfect, but he was razor sharp. And the same with Brazilian Ronaldo as well. He could speak quite good Dutch.
How about Steve McLaren?
McLaren was the complete other end of the spectrum. Do you know what the saddest thing is? Is that I don't know. I mean, I haven't spoken to Steve McLaren. Maybe I will in the future. Who knows? But he was at the time. He was the only manager in the Eredivisie who could not conduct a post-match press conference in Dutch. He was the only one, and he wasn't the only foreigner. There was a Serbian manager managing NAC Breda, I believe. And for me, the saddest thing, guys, is the parting shot that he gave when he signed for Wolfsburg. He said when he signed for Wolfsburg that his family is going to go to Germany and everybody's going to integrate and everybody's going to give their all. If he'd have done that here, he'd still be managing now. In my opinion, if he'd have done that here, he'd still be managing now. I mean, like in my case, I remember taking my Dutch lessons, and as I mentioned in the interview that Football CFB did on me to commemorate the 300th.
Yeah.
I had my first Dutch lesson, and there was 20 of us from Turkey, New Zealand, Italy, France, Spain. And then when it got to the final exam, there was 4 of us left. Everybody else had quit. Everybody else had stopped. I was the only male. I remember going for like we had like a celebration when we all 4 of us passed. And I remember being a little bit out of place being the only male, but you know, anybody watching tonight, you know, the ability to speak a foreign language, however good, however bad, if you can do it, it can change your life forever.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Lots of British people get a bad rep, but there are some tremendous people around, regardless of level, because people often say, oh, English is a world language. Everybody speaks English. I've been in places in the world before Corona, like Milan in Italy, for example, where if I didn't have my Italian phrase book, I was stuffed. So I think it just goes to show that it can be done, but you just have to apply yourself. I mean, I never in my life have I worked so hard, but it's enabled me to interview Dutch players and managers. Well, as well as living a very comfortable life here, it's enabled me to in a hobby sense and in a football writing sense, interview Dutch players and managers in their mother tongue. And I don't know if I'm the only British football writer who's based in the Netherlands that can do that. But to borrow a phrase from the great Brian Clough, I don't know if I'm the best, but I'm definitely in the top 1.
That's good.
How many languages can you speak, James?
Well, English is my mother tongue. Dutch is my second language. My in-laws and my partner are Spanish, so Spanish is a third language. At school, French was my best subject, but must admit, I've got to be honest and say that I've forgotten a lot, but I can get by. And I speak a tiny bit of Portuguese as well. But I started when I was very young. You know, when you're 21 years old and you're living in Amsterdam and you have to pinch yourself some days, you know, thinking what life was like in the UK and how difficult it was at times. And then coming here as a 21-year-old and being confronted with the bright lights of the city, where if you want to go and play pool at 11 o'clock at night, you can go and play pool at 11 o'clock at night. And all the temptations and that kind of thing. And I always say it's the best decision I've ever made. I don't think I'll make a better one in life, but you've always got to stay modest. You've always got to.
What was it that brought you to the Netherlands, James? What was it that brought you over there?
Ajax Arsenal in 2003. Arsenal in 2003.
And you decided the city was so nice that you liked the city so much you wanted to live there. Basically, that's what it was. Before then, I understand that. Yeah.
Before then, I made it quite clear to family members that I wanted to live abroad. So, you know, when you get when you get parents that talk about their children and they say, "Oh, he was very bright," or "She was very, she was always very scientific." I knew from about the age of 16 that I wanted to live abroad at some point in my life, and I came for an away game in Amsterdam, Ajax against Arsenal in 2003. Yeah. And I returned home to the UK and I said to my mother, I've seen the future. She said, what are you talking about? I said, well, I'm going to go live in Amsterdam one day. And she said, James, you've only been back 2 hours. I said, just I spent a year going about life. I spent a year going to Arsenal. I spent a year going out with my mates and working normally. And then in the back of my mind, I'm thinking that this is a chance you've got to take with both hands. And I wouldn't believe it. 2 years after I moved here, and in a couple of months' time, I celebrate 15 years here, and it's been a great journey. It really has. I mean, I remember the highs. You know, it's not always been plain sailing, but you've got to keep going. I mean, I remember when I first started to speak Dutch, I was awful, and I'm man enough to admit that. when I first started speaking, I was useless.
It's a learning curve. It's a learning curve, isn't it? That's what it is.
Yeah, but you have to learn quickly, and then now you go from, by your own admission, being useless to Dutch players and managers telling me, James, if I didn't know, if you didn't tell me you was British, I would never have known. So that just
good.
goes to
Well
show.
done.
But it's always important to remain modest, and always confidence is key, but modesty is always very important.
That's great. That's a great story. So, well, it's good to hear.
So,
well done.
What 21, James, were you?
Sorry,
21 when you went
Adam?
to Amsterdam.
Yeah,
21
I was 21 when I
21
moved there.
when you went.
Right. Yeah. So it's young.
Yeah.
Young, ready to go. So did you have to so when you got there, obviously, did you have to find work and stuff like that, or did you have work lined up?
No. I had to find work, and I went to. Maybe some viewers will know. I went to work in a place called Almere, which is a very big city now, about half an hour's train drive from Amsterdam. And
haven't they got a team in the top league?
They had in the what is now translates as officially the kitchen champion division in terms of the sponsor. It was a team that was called Omniworld many years ago, but it's now been called Almere City for quite some time.
Yeah.
That's where I worked, and then and that's your base upon which to work from. But yeah, I remember being very young and being very proud of holding down a job and learning the language. And sometimes you're on an automatic pilot. Sometimes, I mean, there would be times where I would be on an early shift, but of course I would go to watch Ajax, and I would go, and there'd be extra time, and you'd stay really late, and when you get home, you'd have a cup of tea, and then you get up and do it all again. But no, it's been tremendous.
Interesting. And that's great, mate.
I always say to everybody, obviously with Sam being based in Norway as well, and yourself, Adam, in Spain. Obviously, I admit that moving abroad is not for everybody, but I do encourage anyone who has the opportunity. As my mother used to say to me, life is not a dress rehearsal. You only go around once. So if you have the opportunity to go abroad, you've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. And in my case, it's literally meant that I've gone on to live a life that back in the UK I could have only dreamed of. I mean, I would never have said in a million years that.
I mean, when I was 21, I moved to Sydney with a few of my mates. I think, to be honest, I'm too young to appreciate what I had at that time, because the distance was so far from the UK. I couldn't go home for a weekend or something, and it was because of that I couldn't appreciate what I had at the time. And then I've only been in Spain 4 years now, coming up to, and it's not all Sansi and sangria, but you are right regarding language. I mean, Gareth Bale, even though I'm a proud Welshman, I'm slightly embarrassed of the way Gareth Bale as with a Spanish language. I think it's unprofessional, in my opinion. I think it's unprofessional, and I'm sure you know Madrid, James. The city isn't much of an English speaking city. It's more Barcelona would be more English speaking. So with regarding the Madrid fans never really took to him if he wasn't taken to them, if you know what I mean. It's a bit of a two-way street. And go on.
I think in the extra case of he was employed by the biggest club in the world. You don't want for anything. If your salary is eye-watering, if you want a private tutor, you can have a private tutor. If you can literally dictate how you want your lessons, and if you turn it around to someone like Michael Robinson, who went to play in Spain for Osasuna and ended up being so loved by the people, he had his own TV show and radio show, and his Spanish was absolutely tremendous. And for those that know of Michael Robinson, one of my regrets and I don't have many, but it's part of life. We was on the same flight together
A week.
From Tallinn to Amsterdam after the Super Cup final between Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid. He was obviously flying back to Madrid. I was flying back to Amsterdam, and I was standing behind him in the queue, getting ready to board, and I wanted to say hello to him, but he was talking to his wife, and he appeared to be in deep conversation, so I didn't want to interrupt, so I didn't say anything. And as I'm walking down the gangway to take my seat, I looked at him and he looked at me, and I kind of gestured, and I think he knew, that I wanted to say hello and that kind of thing. But you have to take your chances when they come. But maybe I was a bit too polite. I'm not sure. But what Michael Robinson achieved is nothing short of incredible. And as I say, British people get a lot of British footballers as well. They get a lot of a bad rep about language ability, but even in school, I remember being at school when I went to school in England, and I remember having to have detention. I wasn't a bad guy. I wasn't bad or anything, but I remember having to have detention one time because I was speaking to my head of year, who said the following. She said, "Oh, James, your science is atrocious for a boy of your age." I said, "Yeah, but what about my French?" I said, "My French is maybe the best in the entire year." I said, "You don't give me any support. You don't encourage me or tell me to get better." Oh, and her response was, "You're not going to need your French in future." And all I said was, "How do you know that?" And then I had to stay behind, and I came home, and my mother said to me, "What happened?" I said, "I had detention." She said, "What for?" I said, "Exactly that." And she couldn't understand it neither. But obviously times have changed. But I mean, I know they're trying to change the law where children learn different languages in the UK, but it's like if you have a gifted child in mathematics or science or English, they will be stimulated at every turn. And I often say that if you have a gifted child in terms of language capability, that should also be stimulated as well.
Well, the thing with English people is we're not very good at learning languages when we move somewhere. When we emigrate, we're not that great at learning languages where we go, because English is such a universal language, such a global language, isn't it? It's like here in Norway, I learned Norwegian because I moved here at a young age, and I just had to learn Norwegian really because I was part of the schooling system and everything. And of course, I'm very pleased I did. But there's English guys who move here later in life, in their 30s, their 40s, and they just don't learn Norwegian at all. And they've been here 10 years, 20 years plus, and they can barely speak a word of Norwegian, and it's terrible. It's embarrassing, really, because they get away with it because the Norwegians speak such good English, so just get away with it.
Yeah, I do get it, and I tell you what, obviously because COVID, it hasn't happened much this last summer, but when you get holiday makers over here, and we go in a shop, and if a guy behind the counter can't understand, British people tend to shout, and I'm like, my friend, he can't understand English. He's not deaf. Do you know what I mean? They just really shout to them. How much is it? What? It's embarrassing, and it's very narrow-minded as well, isn't it? As a kind of mindset. But we're going to into a chat for a minute.
Yeah, should we move over to Arsenal because we haven't got long left? So I just thought.
Yeah, sorry. Go on. We'll go into a chat later. Go on. Arsenal.
No, I'm just saying because we haven't got very long left, and I know we wanted to touch on Arsenal, and I can see here that we've had a couple of Arsenal-related questions from the chat. Just want to say big up to everyone in the chat. A lot of the regulars here. Randy, nice to see you. Joseph, got Rich Sports, Jonathan Porter is always a regular. James Costley, big up you guys. Mr. Football Nod Cheddars, our resident Liverpool fan, but he's a closet Arsenal fan. We know that he's an Arsenal fan, really. So of course this is a question that could take a long time to answer. So let's just try and keep it quick. And that is basically, just in a short, I suppose, a short form answer, so we don't spend the rest, of the podcast just answering this. But Randy's asked, so for you, James, do you think Arteta can turn Arsenal around, or do you think he's the wrong man? Basically, what do you think?
Oh, here we go. Go on.
Well, I'll start at the top in the fact that Arsenal's biggest problem is the owner. Arsenal have an owner where he just sees Arsenal as a healthy investment. That's it. He doesn't see Arsenal having any kind of sporting ambition. He's not prepared to kind of outlay that ambition. And I don't just mean in terms of money. I mean in terms of being proactive and looking at all the things that need to be done. His priority is the LA Rams, not Arsenal. And the club's not being run properly. The club is not being run properly. I spoke a couple of weeks ago to former Chelsea midfielder and England under-21 midfielder David Lee. And he was a scout at Arsenal. And he said the following about Arsenal as a scout, David Lee. He said, I loved my time at Arsenal. Great people, great club to work for. He said everything was going so well. He said, and then I was made redundant. We were all made redundant. And he had just signed a contract extension.
Yeah.
So he had just signed a contract extension and he was made redundant. When I see Arsenal fans on Twitter dictating who we should buy, and I think to myself, do we ever learn? Look at the case of William Saliba. Saliba, we'll never see him in an Arsenal shirt again. The younger Arsenal fans that have never seen Arsenal win a league title, they seem to think that this is fantasy football. You're dealing with human beings. People like to write their profiles. Yeah. Oh, we can sign this player. Oh, that player. Maybe the player doesn't want to move. Maybe the player and his family are extremely happy where they are. So my short answer is, until a new owner comes in who is hell-bent on building this club up brick by brick and has the courage to make what would be seen as unpopular decisions, I don't expect any progress mid to long term.
And I agree with you completely, James. I must say it does start from the top. That's where the main issue is. It really is. And just to make a short answer, I would also say, for me personally, I don't think Arteta is the right man either for me, because I just think there's too many red flags there. There's too many issues with him where he's struggling, both man management wise, game management wise. During a game, he can't put his stamp on a game, especially if things aren't going well. He's just not that level we need as a manager to take us to the next level, in my personal opinion. I know many other people disagree. I know many people do like him, and that's fine. We just have to disagree on that, and that's just the way it is. Just one last question here before Brownie comes in. Just one last Arsenal question, then we can move on. I see Randy asked another question here related to our last game against Burnley. What a shambles that was. And it's basically the question, in your opinion, he's asking, do you think Leno was at fault for the goal and not just Xhaka, or do you think it was all down to Xhaka? What do you think, James?
I think it was a complete lack of application and lack of communication. Some of these players are just far too comfortable, where they're just being too nonchalant on the ball. I mean, one of the things that was swept under the carpet, Leno had a great game at Anfield in the League Cup. He played a wonderful game. But after that game, he went on the attack by saying, I'm Arsenal's number one. I've proved I'm the best. And I'm thinking it's completely unnecessary. We know we made the wrong decision with Martinez. I would love an Arsenal fan to tell me, watching Arsenal defensively with Martinez in goal, do they feel as assured and as confident watching the same Arsenal with Leno in the same back line? No. Because the charisma of Martinez and the fact that he kept us all together, we looked more competent. We looked more concentrated. We don't look like that now. I firmly believe, guys, we're going through the motions. And from my point of view, it's just about getting through the season in one piece ahead of extensive work in the summer.
Fair enough.
Do you want me to come in now?
Go on, Brownie.
No worries, mate. James, regarding, you mentioned David Lee. Is that the same David Lee that played for Chelsea, centre half back in the early 90s?
Yes. My interview
I
with
got
him is
you.
out in a couple of weeks' time, and he was scout at Arsenal. And when I see a lot of Arsenal fans on Twitter, literally, fantasy football, we can buy this one and buy that one. One thing that makes me laugh, I'll give you an example. I've rated Mark Albrighton since his Aston Villa days. How on earth he's not been capped by England, I will never know. And I've said to people, Arsenal fans on Twitter, I'd love us to sign Mark Albrighton, and people will tell me he's rubbish. He's a Premier League winner. He's not just making the numbers up Premier League winner. He was as important that season as Jamie Vardy and Riyad Mahrez, and he's a wonderful player. And he's achieved something that Ozil couldn't achieve, that Aubameyang, Lacazette, and Xhaka will never achieve, and that is to win the Premier League. Mark Albrighton has done that, and those bigger name players with, bigger entourages. I mean, like for example, when I was a young gooner, Paul Merson was my hero, Ian Wright, Dennis Bergkamp, Mark Overmars. Now, Arsenal fans back in the day would eulogise the footballing talent, whereas now it appears that some fans, especially the younger fans, they don't look at the football. It's Aubameyang's on Instagram with a well-known celebrity fan. Aubameyang's got a gold Lamborghini. What's that got to do with anything? He saw Arsenal coming. He saw Arsenal coming, and for me to have spoken to a scout who. Obviously, I don't know if it's completely true, but I believe that those scouts were let go to finance that deal. I don't know that for certain, but that is what I believe. Having spoken to a scout who was extremely happy at the club due to a deal that they had to finance, that scout has had to leave, and he was doing some excellent job as well, both at home and abroad.
That's interesting you say that, James. That's good. That's good. It's interesting.
Because
Brownie, you there?
Because West Ham got rid of their scouts. Maybe. Hello?
Can you hear? Yeah, you're just choppy.
Yeah, you were saying about West Ham.
Sorry, man. Yeah, West Ham, they got rid of their scouts around about a year ago now. And they went all on, basically, the FIFA way of scouting. The statistics and all that. And they then, as a result of that, come up with Souček and Kofal. As two signings. Because it's obviously a cheaper way of going about it, do you think other clubs are still going that way now? And are all clubs going that way now? You think, James?
I think it depends on the club. I'll give you an example. Sporting Lisbon, Sporting Club de Portugal, are top of the Portuguese league. They haven't lost a game this season. They've got a manager in Ruben Amorim who played at a good level. They signed a defender called Souhair Fedal as a Moroccan defender, and a very good defender too. He made over 50 appearances for Real Betis in La Liga. He signed for Sporting Lisbon. Do you know what his transfer fee was?
Go on. I should know because Betis isn't far away. 5 million.
Sam?
Look I can hear him clicking. He's on Google.
No. You say 5 million, Brownie?
I went for
Brownie
5 million.
5 million.
I don't know, 8 million?
3 million euros.
Bloody hell.
3 million euros. Now, I know people are going to say, oh, an English club would have been quoted 5 times as much. But therein lies the secret, that you've got to identify players better. Antoine Griezmann, when he was at Real Sociedad, a wonderful player. Arsene Wenger was in. Now look at Griezmann. Although I think his decision to sign for Barcelona is a bit of a clanger. But, it's just about identifying. Ruben Diaz, I've known about Ruben Diaz of Manchester City since his time at Braga. And you could tell at Braga he was even a very good defender. And City have gone out and got him, and he doesn't look out of place. And I just think that with certain Arsenal fans, guys, it really is fantasy football. I mean,
Yeah.
I had one.
Yeah, it's
There was
true.
one
It's
time.
true, yeah.
There was one time where Arsenal fans on Twitter were saying about different players, and I said to them, I said, look, I'm in a privileged position where I interview professional players and managers, so my perspective is a little bit different. I said, the player you're talking about suffered a horrific injury the season before last, but because he's back on track, it's as if they want to stockpile players. But unfortunately, you can't do that. But of course, all fans have their opinion, which you have to respect. But I just think as a club, we're going nowhere fast at the moment.
Many years ago,
Yeah.
James, I was only at admin level within a football agency, and I'm talking many years ago now. And I can definitely relate to some of the things in which you're saying. And one of the things that really annoys me when I go onto social media is the fact that football fans only think of the football player and not the human being. And Sam, I
Yeah.
picked this up on a few podcasts in which
Yeah.
we've been on. But you don't know a player comes over. You know, you don't know what worries he has. Children can settle in school. You've got all that basic human being worries, which football fans just cannot accept, and they just want to know what the hell is going on in the 90 minutes. Well, surely, you can relate to any working environment. If your home life isn't correct, your working life wouldn't be correct, and it's so what I was it's just the modern day social media football fan just hasn't got the concept of what the hell goes on after the final whistle, and it's so frustrating.
No, you're
You
right.
there? Oh, sorry. So what is your best? Who's your best player you've interviewed, then, James? Who's the best one out of them all? You're coming up to 300 now. You're coming up to 300, and congratulations on that milestone.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. I get this question a lot. But I always like to turn it around, guys. I always say that they're not favourite interviews; they're watershed interviews. I'll give you a couple of anecdotes. When Danny Cowley was Lincoln manager, I put in a request to speak to him, and through the official channels, and I didn't hear anything back. And then one Friday, my telephone went, and I picked it up, and it said, "Hello, James, it's Danny Cowley." Hello. He said, "Oh, James, I must apologise. I haven't got back to you. We've been ever so busy." He said, "I must be honest with you, James. I don't. Very rarely do I do telephone interviews, if ever." He said, "But I've read some of your stuff, and it's really, really good, and I'd be more than happy to help you." And when I come off the phone, I thought, the train has left the station. We're on. We're moving now. Yeah. And the same with Simon Barker. When I spoke to him, was chief executive of the PFA. And I remember something he said to me. He said, "James," he said, being in the position we're in, we're very wary of the people that we speak to. He said, "But the way you go about your business and the way you do things, it's a throwback to how things used to be." And I enjoyed that compliment. And recently I spoke to Craig Brown of the Scottish national team and Aberdeen, and he was saying to me, he said, "James," he said, "if I listen to what you say and how you explain things," he said, "in terms of mannerisms," he said, "it reminds me very much of my former chief executive at Preston, Tony Scholes." He said, "He's now chief executive of Stoke." He said, "You're very similar in terms of attitude and what you do." And I come away from that interview thinking, yes, I harbour personal ambitions to be to work on the media side of a professional football club one day, and we're getting closer day by day. But I come away from that particular interview, and I thought, well, I harbour ambitions of being on a media team, but who's to say that you can't become a chief executive, that you can't become an important person within a football club, you know. And I'm very fortunate that a lot of clubs are looking on the LinkedIn. It really has been a who's who lately, and the interview's been really well received in the run up to 300. But it's about treating everybody the same, you know, whether you are Jamie Carragher, whether you are a Dutch player playing in Denmark or Switzerland. My latest interview before we went online tonight was with Rudy Langen, and we spoke about his time at Dumbarton and Greenock Morton, and obviously Cohen Bramall tomorrow. So you just have to really apply yourself properly and give the same level of attitude. And, you know, I always say that it's not about me, it's about the story of the player. And nice to dip my toe into women's football as well. I enjoyed my recent interview with Chloe Lacasse, who's the best striker of Benfica women, and the ambition that the club has on the women's side of things. So I always say the next interview is always the most important one, but those three that I mentioned, they're not my favourite, but I would say they're watershed in terms of how far the journey has come.
No pubs. Guys, I think I'm going to have to... I know I can see Sam. I can read Sam's eyes sometimes, and I know what James, is an absolute pleasure you coming on. Really, really great insight to your life so far in football.
Thank you very much.
And long may that continue. Sam, many thanks once again, guys. Where can the people find you? Where can the people find you?
James, go ahead.
After you, Sam. Oh,
okay, well, me,
James, where can people find you?
It's very simple with me. I don't really have a page or anything like that, or a channel. I'm just a guest on different podcasts. I do, loads of different podcasts, really, mostly Arsenal related. Have good fun doing that. Help Brownie here now and again. Sometimes it's good fun, always a laugh. And thanks for having me. I just want to say, James, it's nice to see you again. Pleasure to talk to you. Want to wish you all the luck in the world going forward. It seems like you're in the right place. You've got a lot of the right foundation there to build on to get where you want to go. And I hope it happens soon. You know, I really hope it does. You know, it'd be great for you to get into a big club and to the media team somewhere. It'd be great. So good luck with that. And I hope I'll see you again soon on another stream soon, hopefully.
Yeah, thank you very much. First and foremost, thanks very much for the kind words. For some viewers, obviously, who know who Sam is, I spoke with Sam on Ryan's podcast, Mr. Arsenal 89, in the Europa League draw, and I thought you were very good. So, you know, confidence is also very important. I think this podcast tonight stands out in a different way to other podcasts, so you need to give yourselves a big pat on the back. Thank you very much for having me tonight. For viewers listening to me for the first time, you can follow me on @JamesRoweNL. And you can read my interviews published on Football CFB every Monday, and every Wednesday there's a new release of an interview of mine with different players and managers all
thank you.
Football on the Secret Footballer website.
Great stuff, really good stuff, James.
Thank you.
Brownie, still there?
After COVID, James, let me know. Am I here now?
Just a bit choppy again.
Yeah.
Am I back?
Yeah, I can hear you.
After COVID. Yeah, when you're back in Zaragoza, let me know, and then we'll meet up and we'll go to a game together.
Sounds like a good plan. Look forward to that.
Thank you very much, guys. Much appreciated. Thank you, everybody in the chat. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I've enjoyed taking part. And thank you very much, James. And cheers, Sam.
Cheers, lads.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey, everybody. Bye-bye.